Hi there guys, it's Mike from MCQBushcraft here, and in this video I wanted to introduce you to my bushcraft fishing kit. It's a very basic kit and it's really just made out of a long piece of wood or a couple of bits of wood bolted together. One of them has a compartment at the back for spare hooks and sinkers, and it has some line on the front. And I recently updated my leather work and I found an old pair of boots and used them to make this pouch for the actual fishing kit itself, and to do a wrap on the handle of the kit to make it more comfortable to use. And fishing kits like this are really easy to make, and it doesn't really take a lot to build them even if you're out in the field. You just need a piece of wood. It's just the tackle that's really the important part and the hard part to replicate out here in nature. But before we actually go through on how we make this kit and how you can build one of your own, let's see what it can do and see what we can catch. For bait I'm using earthworms, and all I've done is gone around and disturbed some of the molehills that are around here and uncovered some of the worms that are beneath and just collected them and put them in a pouch on my belt. I normally use this pouch for my slingshot, but for today it can be a bait pouch for as and when I need it. There are a few reasons why I'm using worms, and it's obviously a very readily available bait that I can just dig up out the fields and use, but it's also an excellent bait choice for trout, and we have quite a lot of trout in this river here. And trout, being a predatory fish, will take the worm. They've got quite a big mouth on them, so they'll come up and take the worm, and it's a very good combination really. And trout's a game fish. There's a few different varieties of trout, and we have quite a lot of brown trout in this river here. And being a game fish, it's quite a tasty fish, and it's a great combination if you're not carrying much kit on you to dig up worms and fish for trout, if you're fishing in kind of like a bushcraft context. So now we've got our bait sorted, let's have a look at the area I've picked to fish in and talk a bit about why I've chose this area. We've got a nice little stream here, very shallow along this point here, but it comes all the way around into a nice deep patch and cuts on through and goes further downstream. And the main thing I'm looking for when I pick an area to fish in, especially for trout, is these nice eddies here. This is a nice deep swirl of water where the current just kicks on by, and it gets very, very deep here, which is ideal. I'm not going to be fishing in the shallow, fast moving waters because I'm just not going to have any luck. This is the area I want to be fishing in, because areas like this offer the fish quite a lot in terms of resources for feeding. Before I do go out and fish, I check the weather and what it's been like the past few days. You generally get an idea living in the world what the weather's doing anyway, so if it's been raining an awful lot, I generally avoid coming out, because the river levels can go up very quickly and they get very muddy and clouded, and the visibility in the water becomes very poor, and your chances of actually catching anything go down, especially when you're using a dull bait like a worm. If we look at the area I'm standing on a little island, and if we have a look over at the banks here on the river, you'll see loads of stinging nettles and brambles and all kinds of shrubbery. I'll never be able to get my fishing line or my hook and even a fish up through that. If I cast off the end of that, standing up there into that eddy, there's no way I'm getting my tackle back. It would just get torn and I'd just get lost, and I'd have to wade through it all almost every time I cast it out to get it free, and it would be a complete nightmare. So I've set myself up in an ideal position. I've found a good eddy there that's probably going to harbour quite a few fish. I mean, as I say, I've already seen them feeding off the surface, and I can cast out and reel in towards myself. Just here like this, with no snags at all. I mean, obviously you've got to watch things like this, but then you can just pick them up and throw them to one side. It's just the stuff that's rooted into the ground that you're tugging against, and you'll never get your line free. So you want to preserve your fishing tackle. You may be somewhere very remote in the world and it might be the only fishing tackle you've got on you. So even then it becomes even more important. It's your lifeline to a meal. Or even if you're out on a day out like I am, just fishing on a local river, it's still annoying having to wade through loads of stinging nettles and brambles to free up my line every time. So it's just something to bear in mind. Find yourself a nice patch with an eddy like this and an island where you're drawing up towards yourself with minimal chance of snags, and you have a much better day and you're more likely to get a meal by the end of it. I've got a nice big worm here, and you can see there's the head of the worm, and I'm going to take the head of the worm and just put him through this hook here. He's obviously not too keen on it, as I wouldn't blame him to be. just like this. Make sure he's behind the barb like that, and this way he's not going to come out, and that's ready to cast in now. Casting the hand line is very easy. I just put one finger just above the float there. I make sure things aren't snagged up first. So you can see I'm just holding the line with my finger, and then I hold this in the other hand, just cast like that, just point in the direction I want to go. And that was a pretty poor cast, but you can always reel in and have another go. So I've let the float drift. I've just been unravelling the line as I go, and it's tailed all the way around the back of the swirl now. It's coming into the tail of the swirl. Just another good area to fish. There we go, got something. Oh, got quite a tug on him as well actually, that feels like quite a big one. So when you've got something you just want to keep bringing it in. You can let it play a bit. I wouldn't let it play too much. Actually does feel like quite a big one. I've got 8 pound line on this, so oh, here we go. That is quite a nice sized trout actually, considering. That's a good meal. So there you go. Lovely trout just there. Nice big one. Just getting this cleaned up. Got a decent piece of meat there really for dinner. Really nice. So I've been here for about half an hour and I've got a bite. It doesn't feel like a very big one. Okay. So there you go, just a nice little trout. You can see this one's a bit small, so I'm just going to put him back. He's not really big enough for a meal. So now we've had a look at what the kit can do, and I've caught myself some lunch. Let me show you how you can actually make one and the tackle that I use, which is really the most important part of the kit. So if we have a look at the fishing kit, the sheath is really optional, and you can make something like that out of leather if you wish. I've just stitched it down the back there, along the base, and this sort of decoration around the top was already part of the boot, and I've glued some soft leather inside just so it fits a little bit more snug, and put a belt loop in. So just something optional that you can make. But the kit itself, no matter how much you dress it up, is literally just a stick with a line wrapped around it. And in my case I put some more leather wrapping around it, and you can see some more decoration there, and a lanyard as well so it can go on my wrist just for security. And in my case it's 2 pieces of wood. I got given a gift some time ago, and it had a needle container with bone needles in, and there's a little lid that goes on the top of here. And what I've done is just put a big screw all the way through to a second piece of wood on the end there, which is where my line is, just so I could have a compartment at the back. And you could just take one piece of wood and drill a big hole and route it out, make a lid for the back out of a cork of a wine bottle for example, and have your spare hooks and sinkers in the back there. So that is an option. In my case, it's just something that gradually evolved, and that's why it looks the way it does. But if I was going to go out and make one, I'd probably just take one piece of wood and drill a hole through the back and put my spares in the back there and make a lid out of a wine cork. So you can go which way you like with that, really. I have done some leather wrapping as well around it, and you can see I've used a cross stitch for that. It's very simple to do. You just need a leather punch, and you punch the holes and just put some leather cord through and gradually tighten it up as you go, and it doesn't take too much work. And then you end up with a nice handle that you can hold on to, and something that looks nice, because ultimately, you know, I quite like making things look good as well, rather than just it being functional. But getting to the important stuff, which is the tackle, it's on the front there, and we'll talk a bit about that, because that is the part you want to get right. As I say, you can make this out of a piece of wood you find on the day. You don't necessarily have to make yourself a plush kit for going out fishing with. So the tackle really is the main thing, and some people do just carry tackle. I've got a piece of elasticated fabric around the head of mine, and there's a reason for that. And it's so I can put my hook just here into that elasticated fabric to keep it from snagging on things when it's in my kit and on my belt and inside the sheath. And you just unpick it from that material and take that sheath off, and I usually put that in my pocket, and you can see the line just unravels like so. If we take it in a little bit, you can see my float there, and I've got 2 sinkers, and it goes all the way down to my hook, and it's about 2 foot of length in terms of depth, which I've judged pretty well on the river level today, which is something you need to bear in mind. If we look at the end there, the piece of wood that actually has the line wrapped around, you'll see that the line is pretty much flush with the head, and that's important. I've carved a small indentation out there by running my knife around here and here and then carving away the wood gradually, a depression, so I can put my line in there. And I made sure that head wasn't overhanging, because if it's overhanging too much, it won't cast very well, and that's something you do need to bear in mind. If you want it to cast very far and nice and smoothly and unravel gradually, and your line not to get snagged on the actual end piece, then you really want to make it flush with the line, and that's what I've done there, and it works very well. The line I've got on here is 8-pound line, and that's more than capable of doing the job in little streams and rivers like this. You don't want to go too thick, because if you go too thick, you're just going to compromise your ability to catch things, because it just looks sus and it won't look right. And trout are very perceptive, which is why you want to use a small hook as well, to make sure things look as natural as possible. I've got quite a lot of line on here, a whole spool of line that I bought, so I've got more than enough to last me however long I need, really. And if we look at this float, this is what's called a 2BB float, meaning it uses 2 BB sized weights to weigh it down correctly. And you can see there's a small piece of rubber just here at the top of the float which holds the line, and the line runs down, goes for a small eyelet, and then I've put one of the BB weights at the base there. And this can be adjusted as well, I should say, so if I suspect the water level being deeper, I can pull that up, free the weight up with my fingernail and slide it up the line just like that, so I can adjust for depth if I need to. So it's a very versatile setup. You can see I use a very small hook, and this is a number 10 micro barbed hook. And again, for little rivers and streams like this, I wouldn't use anything bigger than a number 10, because again, you're just going to make things look out of place. And whether you believe it or not, the fish are very perceptive of things like this, and the smaller you go with all this setup in little rivers and things, the more success you'll have. And when you get a good setup, it'll work very well. And when you start getting to know the river, things will start coming together a bit better as well. But you can see this tiny little micro barbed hook is just on the end there, and they're very easy to tie on, and I can show you a knot. Attaching a hook is very simple. You have an eyelet on the hook, and you put the line through, just like so. Take the slack like that. And what you're doing is you're going round 6 times with the slack. So 1, I think it's 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see I'm just grabbing it with those fingers there, and we then put that through the loop at the top and wet it with your mouth. pull that through like that, and then just pull the line, and it all stacks up to a nice knot there, just like that. You don't want to pull it too much too close, so you stress the line there. I usually take it right back and give it a pull like that, and there it is, and you can just bite or cut the slack off just there, and there it is. Very simple. So you can see overall a very basic setup, and to put it away we just put that hook back into that fabric like that, and then you can turn the fabric slightly just to tighten it up, and we can pop that back in there. We obviously have some spares in the back, and I can show you what I have there. I've got a series of micro barbed hooks, number 10s again, and I've got some larger hooks as well for fishing off of rocks on the coastline for things like bass, which, you know, sometimes you do get a bit of success with, but I find river fishing a lot more successful for me anyway. But these are just some spares rolled up in some felt, and they can go in the back here, and you can also see I've got some weights as well just in the back there as well, and they're pretty much all the same size as the weights I have on the line. So now you've seen the kit and you've seen what it can do, and it's a really basic setup, really just engineered for me to go out and catch game fish like trout in rivers like this, you know, that really surround me everywhere in this part of the country. And it's a really nice thing to be able to do, especially when you're camping. You know, you can go out and catch yourself some food. And I find fishing far more fruitful than hunting, I think, in a respect. For me, I enjoy fishing a bit more, and I fished a lot when I was young with my father, and we spent a lot of days out on the river together. I'm sure I enjoyed it a lot more than he did, from talking to him these days. But yeah, they were fond memories, and you know, it's something I've always dabbled in throughout the years after. And it's the thing about bushcraft, really. It's not about specifically focusing on one thing. It's just about being a bit of a jack of all trades and sort of being versatile and proficient in your natural environment. And when you can do that, and you can move through it quite comfortably and make use of the natural resources within it with just some basic gear, and even substitute that basic gear for things you can find naturally, then you'll really find it a much easier ride just going out and being outdoors and roughing it and enjoying it, and it's good fun. And I hope this video really helped on the fishing kit, and there will be more videos to come when the season opens up again for me and I'm able to you know, to do more fishing like this. But for the time being, obviously, you know, I don't want to take too much because, you know, it's not really too good from a conservation perspective. But I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will put links to everything that I've mentioned in the description, as well as a detailed explanation in the description of the things you need, you know, so the line, the hooks and all that sort of thing. And there are lots of videos out there on how to attach, you know, hooks and things if you want to try different methods of attaching them. There's loads of videos out there on fishing. I'll endeavour to make more, but obviously in the meantime, you know, there are plenty out there if you do want to sort of top up on your knowledge, and go and just try things out if you want to. So thanks again for watching, and I appreciate you commenting and actually watching the videos, and I'll answer any questions I can as soon as I can. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next vid. Take care.